Hey there guys, in this video we're just going to have a little bit of fun because people always love tier list. So we're going to do another tier list. Now in this video we're going to be putting the global, either global exclusive or global original units into a tier list. We're only going to be covering the Neovision global units, and we're only going to be covering the ones that are global original designed. So something like, for example, Noctis that got global buffs, or like Ramza, Void Mage Roka. You know, units that may have even dramatically been changed on global. If they weren't originally created on global, we're not really going to cover them. And then you might notice units like Secret of Mana somewhere in here, like Angela and Duran. Even though they're technically JP units, Global did completely design their Neovisions. Maybe not from scratch, but anyway, they're global creations. So we're going to go through here. Now, as far as this tier list goes, I want to say right at the start, this is not going to be ranking the units based on their overall power right now, today. Because lots of these units, today, their time has passed. They're effectively worthless. For example, Louise. Louise has no value in today's game, just to be honest here. But she was really good for a long time. So, yeah, this tier list is going to be mostly covering the units at the time of their release. But we are going to slightly influence their final grade based on how well they held up over time. So if a unit had like a really long lifespan, they might get points for that. If they were good for like a month, then immediately got power crept, I'm going to use that to influence their ranking as well. And the final disclaimer, it's my tier list, it's my opinion. You very well may disagree with it. This is definitely not based on fact or anything. So I might even move a unit based nothing more than a sprite. Probably not, but you get the idea. It's not entirely scientific the way we're doing this. This is mostly for fun. But let's get right into it. So the first global original or global exclusive, I'm probably going to call them mostly global exclusive just out of habit. But the first one is Starlight Elena. Now, how are we going to rank her? It's a little tricky here because she was pretty good early on. She definitely carried quite a few trials in the early days. I feel like she got power crept sort of quickly. Not that quickly, but I don't know. I mean, she was okay for a while, but I don't feel like she had a really long lifespan. But then she got latent abilities, and she was hard to gear, but her latent ability really did bring her back for a while. Not too much longer, but for a brief period, it did revive her, and she became pretty good as like a trial damage per turn unit. Yes, once upon a time, we did get trial content, and she was pretty good for it. So I'm going to rank her as like good. She's definitely not amazing or anything, but she had a pretty strong showing early on, and then she got a revival with her latent. Obviously today she's massively power crept, and she'd be under the terrible tier. But we're not ranking it in today's meta. We're ranking it as lifetime power level. So Yoshikiri came out pretty much the same time as Elena, maybe the same week. I don't remember. It might have been back to back or the same time. Irregardless. And he also got a latent later on, or intrinsic. Not latent, intrinsic. That made him okay, not great. This one might be a little controversial. There actually a bunch of these might be, but I do know Yoshikiri was fine, and a lot of people felt like he was really, really good. I feel like he was like closer to like either mediocre or just alright. I think I'm going to put him in the mediocre tier. And again, I realize quite a few of these may be controversial, because I do know Yoshikiri, a lot of people say he was really good in the early days, and I don't disagree. I do feel like he was pretty good early on. I remember him being like a really helpful unit for the Antinola trial, the Antinola Scorn or whatever it was called, the EX version. I don't know, but I just feel like he was never like a super big deal, and I kind of feel that he was crept relatively soon and not the greatest overall. So that's where I'm going to put Yoshikiri. Ibara, the original, so no question, she was one of the strongest units, or the strongest unit in the entire game for a very long time. Speculation is that she was that strong because of a bug in her LB. It was like double dipping on spirit modifiers or spirit breaking or something. I forget the exact details of the bug, but in any case, it made her LB deal a lot more damage than was probably intended because, yeah, she just doubled or tripled the damage of everyone from that time period, including units going forward. She was just broken in the literal sense of the word, in a good way. So how do we rank her? I guess just based on her being incredibly overpowered for 6 months or something. Like, it was a long time. It was a long time before Ibara wasn't just the go-to for everything. So we got to put her in amazing. Was she amazing for accidental reasons? Like, whoopsie, it was a bug. We didn't catch it in time. Now it's too late to fix her. Maybe. But it doesn't change the fact that's how she was in the game. And she was just great. Great damage dealer. No real utility or anything, but that's kind of similar for a lot of these units. There's not a lot of utility in some of the earlier ones. But, yeah, she was a good unit. Amazing unit, in fact. Eldryn. Oh boy, here we go at Eldryn. How do we rank him? So, it's no secret that I don't like Eldryn, the unit. I think his sprite is awesome. I love the sprite, especially the one with the wolf in it. It's really good looking. But, you know, even though I made a joke about giving points for sprite, I'm not really going to rank anyone based on their sprite. So yeah, but other than that, and this one might be controversial too, because when he came out, I pretty much said right away, this guy is no good. A lot of people said that, and I feel confident in saying that the consensus was Eldryn was not very good. But he definitely had a small little bastion of defenders that would tell you Eldryn was god tier, and they were having people like trying to take him to the Demon Chimera and make him work. And to be fair, a few people did make it work to try to prove their point that Eldryn is better than everyone thinks. Well, I disagree. He's going right into the terrible tier. Now, of course, he did have really high value as an arena unit, because he would like counter and kill everyone for arena. That's mostly like a meme. I don't really care about arena. We're not giving any consideration to arena, other than me maybe mentioning one or two units that are good in arena. But no, Eldryn in trial content was straight up terrible. Even if you could force him to work, like people that went through the headache to actually make him able to kill Demon Chimera within the mission time limit and all, you had to jump through so many hoops to do it when you could have like just taken Ibara or something. You see what I'm saying? And yeah, it's just a terrible unit. And then he did get latents and all later, intrinsics, whatever you want to call them. And again, they did not save him in the slightest amount. They like doubled his damage, but when you're doubling 0, you're still at 0. So can't help you, Eldryn. Shouyu, or she, people tell me the name is pronounced weird. I don't know. She's Shouyu to me. That's what she's going to be in the video. She was fine, okay, when she came out. She was good for some of the trials. I remember she was one of the really speed clears on the Iron Giant trial, which wasn't a hard trial in the first place. A few others, like the Ygni's trial, she was good at. Like, there was a few trials around her release period where she was good, and she was fine. And then she got latents later on, or intrinsics, one of the two, and they were absolutely terrible. They didn't save her. And the issue with Shouyu is because she's a double-handed spirit damage dealer. It just didn't work out for her. She wasn't good. And this is also back in the day when mages didn't get variants either. So, yeah, mages in the first place weren't that good. Ibara just, broke all the rules because she was overpowered. But most mages back at this time period were not good because they didn't get variants, and mages were just a joke. We're going to stick her in, I'm almost wanting to say alright, but we're not going to. Mediocre. Like I said, I fully recognize that she could easily carry quite a few trials at her release period. But the trials around her release period were not hard in the first place. They were like, Iron Giant, Ygni. These are very, very easy trials. So you didn't need like a big powerhouse to carry. You could have just been carried by a generic friend and it would have been totally fine. This is also before Clash of Wills existed. And you weren't using her in Dark Visions either. So yeah, she just, even though she was technically speaking okay, just not that great. Vanera was our first global exclusive 90% defense break. She was the first one. No one could break 90 defense before her. And it's basically all she did. Yeah, her damage from day one was absolutely abysmal. You may as well leave her naked. It wouldn't matter. She had like a little bit of a kit. Not really. The only thing relevant in her kit was that she could give Mirage for the party on a cooldown. But no, all she was, 90% defense break. Well, perfect to spell too, but 90% defense break on a Magnus, usable on turn 1. Pretty good. It is single target, which is a little bit worse for a few of the fights that we had during that time period. But just based on that alone, no, we're going to go with alright instead. Or, I don't know. No, I feel like it's more of an alright because even in Dark Visions, did people use her in Dark Visions? I don't even remember. Probably. It was a long time ago. I'm going to say alright, because really, the unit was just a 90 defense break. The end. She dealt no damage. None. Like, it was so bad. Like, as bad as Eldryn almost. Yeah. And then Mellia. So Mellia, I again recognize that Mellia has quite a fan base because people love the Rainbow Rabbits. Like, it's Mellia. She's amazing. She's got the whole Easter theme going on. She's cute. She's a waifu. All that kind of fun stuff. I don't care about any of that. All I care about is how are you as a unit. And I feel like Mellia is not good. She's going to go into the mediocre tier. Like, yes, she's a damage... not damage. She's a tank. She's a magical tank. And during the time period, she was okay. She might even have arguably been very good because she did have that 80% cooldown for mitigation back in the day when 80% was a really big deal. Like, units didn't have that back then. So that was good. But again, you come into the issue of, did it matter? Like, there was really no content to use her. All the trials of that time period were very, very simple. Like the Ygni's trial, you could bring a 4-star Mystia, give her some water and dark resist, and your 4-star Mystia is tanking the trial totally fine. So the fact that Mellia gets things like 80% mitigation is really, who cares? Because you didn't really need mitigation during that time period. It was all about elemental resist, which every single magical tank in the game could equally tank totally fine if you have resistance gear. So it didn't matter. Special shout out, I do realize Mellia was part of the rank 1 strategy for the Vision World that got, I think it was Resonant, got him 50,000 Lapis. So yes, I recognize for one single fight in the entire game, Mellia was on the winning team. I recognize that. But as a unit for the whole, not worth it. Mediocre. King Behemy. I think he's going to go into the alright tier. And again, we're looking at like lifetime rankings, not just when they came out. When they came out is a big deal. But I'm going more for like lifetime rankings. And Behemy was good. Again, he had really some valuable tanking, especially after his upgrades when he became really good for the Kairos Clash of Wills. You know, when he came out, Clash of Wills wasn't the thing yet, but he got a little bit upgrades a little bit later on. He was good for the Kairos Clash of Wills. His racial mitigations lined up for that at a time period when racial mitigations were very, very rare. The issue with Behemy is, back in the day, accuracy either didn't exist or it was just very rare. I think it did exist, but almost no bosses had accuracy. So physical tanking was just evasion. Evasion, evasion, evasion. Clash of Wills did change that a little bit later on. And again, Behemy was the MVP for Kairos in Clash of Wills. The problem was, before too much longer, Runda came out, and the minute Runda came out, every single physical tank became irrelevant because Runda. So yeah, Behemy, mostly because Runda came a little bit later, Behemy just didn't have much of a lifespan. He did get upgraded later on, but it was way too little. Like, he got upgraded to 75 mitigation after Runda has been doing 85 for months and months. So, too little, too late. Cacteria, my personal favorite of the unit design sprites of that batch. I love Cacteria's sprite. I just think it's simple, it's clean. It's got those little wee flashing, like, little needles. I love it, I love it. As far as the unit goes, I'm trying to avoid bias because I really do like Cacteria, but I recognize that she wasn't the greatest unit, even after her upgrades, which did almost nothing for her. So I'm going to just stick her in alright. I mean, she was an alright breaker. She did what she needed to do. I just feel like she's never been that meta, and mostly she's just been like an alternative to what you were probably using anyway. Like, if you wanted defense break, you were using Vanera. If you wanted spirit break, you weren't using spirit break because magical variants didn't come till way later. Before magical variants, mages were pretty bad. So all that mattered were physical units, and Vanera is over here, you know, taking care of all your physical breaking needs. So Cacteria, even though she had 89 breaks, you know, when Vanera's got 90, that's better. Napi is going down to... We got to go to terrible tier, because Napi never had a chance. Napi was by far the worst of the unit design batch. Napi came out at a time period like directly before a power creep jump, and Napi was not part of that power creep jump, so Napi never had a chance. Napi then had that pay-to-win intrinsic ability, which wasn't even good, and that was the source of all the drama that killed intrinsics for global entirely, because Napi's intrinsic was so bad, and they were trying to like sell it to you for 20,000 or real cash. I don't even remember what it would cost, but it would cost some stupid amount for a bad intrinsic that even if you paid to win and got it, Napi was still terrible. So yeah, Napi, you know, very cute sprite. Love it. Love the idea of the goofy Moogle thinks he's a Dragon Slayer or something, but the unit is terrible. Always has been, always will be. Very unfortunate. Then we get Louise and Ling. These were the start of Clash of Wills. So going forward, we're going to start factoring in how good was the unit in Clash of Wills, because that was a thing. So Louise was obviously the MVP for the first Clash of Wills, and then she was a very, very good unit in Clash of Wills for like 4 to 5 months or longer. She was also very good as a spirit breaker for a long time, because eventually mages become good again when they get that variance patch that came a little bit later. We'll talk about that more when we get there. But yeah, so Louise was good in Clash of Wills. Then she had a comeback where she was really good in Dark Visions once mages became usable after the variance patch. So we're going to have to stick her in amazing tier. Like, she also has a pretty decent support kit for the time. Not that great anymore, but for the time, it was a good support kit. Like, she had immunity buffs, killers, mitigations, imbues, fields, Like, she had chaining for multiple families. Like, she was a good unit for a really long time. She did get an intrinsic ability later on, and it, like, didn't really do anything. It made her slightly better, but by the time she got it, she had been mostly reduced to, like, just a breaker and no longer a damage dealer. And all the intrinsic did was give her more damage, but not nearly enough to matter. Ling. So this one might be controversial. I'm only going to put her in good, even though she was very, very good. I don't know. I just don't feel like she deserves the amazing tier, even though Ling saw lots of use in Clash of Wills. Like, she was good for a long time. And not anymore, but she did have a very long lifespan, longer than Louise, I'd say. Mostly when the killers lined up, but I don't know. There's a few things in Ling's kit that I don't love. She's a little awkward to use with the having to unlock the triple cast and swapping stance every few turns. A lot of her stuff is very short duration. If you're trying to use her LB for the buffing, it's very expensive and hard to keep filled. She can't do most of her stuff on turn 1 without filling her LB gauge, which is, again, kind of annoying. So Ling has some negatives, in my opinion, but she still was a very good unit and had a really good lifespan in Clash of Wills. She's, like, right here on the bottom edge of amazing tier, but I just feel like she needs to go into the good tier instead of the amazing tier. And her damage was always bad too. You know, people, myself included, we tried to make it work with like a double-handed dagger and gearing her in full DPS gear. It didn't work. Her damage was always bad, so that didn't work. Then we've got Skye. I think it's pretty obvious where she's going. Skye was Ibara 2.0. She just broke the game and made a massive power jump. Again, we don't know if it was like accidental because she's double dipping on modifiers with her LB, or if they intentionally made her just brokenly strong. But she was the go-to in Clash of Wills for months and months and months. Her own Clash of Wills was an automatic victory if you pulled her. Asta, she double capped it like all by herself. She was the MVP for months and months going forward. And then, when Intrinsics came out, her Intrinsic was amazing. It brought her back to life completely, and she was just good all over again for like 3 or 4 more months. Then they had their Dragoon changes, which again brought her back to life a little bit. By that point, she was starting to fade even with the changes, but for a damage dealer to have a lifespan of longer than a year of still being a relevant damage dealer, that's rare. There is very few damage dealers that last as long as Skye did, and she was good for so long. Mostly only in Clash of Wills, not really in Dark Visions. Like, people used her in Dark Visions, but no, she was mostly a Clash of Wills unit. Ygni, like, I want to put him directly into terrible, but we got to be fair here. And for like 3 months, he was good in Clash of Wills. He was good for a brief period of time. Then he died off, and you never saw him again. Ygni, just terrible. Now I'm almost wanting to stick him in terrible. I mean, we did use him in like 1 or 2 Dark Visions too. Okay, we're gonna put him in mediocre, but man, this damage dealer got crept real fast. No, I know someone that he's even worse than. That's gonna go into mediocre later. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about. We're gonna get there. But no, we're putting Ygni in terrible. Like he was very, very good in a few Clash of Wills, and then he just got crept so quick. And he's also very awkward to use. He's a ×5 caster, and I know you can do ×4 plus a self-cap, so I guess, to be fair, you should only really consider him a ×4 chainer. But most chainers are not going 4 times. He was very hard to make work. I guess Louise was the usual chainer partner for him, but by this point, Louise is starting to get really power crept, and Ygni you have to take Louise to chain with Ygni, and it was just a headache. Didn't love it. Bulwark. Bulwark's going to go into the alright tier. He's fine, he's alright, but I don't know. I feel like Ling just saw way more use than Bulwark, and even though Bulwark was basically as good as Ling, just my personal experience, I feel like he didn't see as much use as Ling. I can't really tell you the specific reason why. I think, on the whole, Bulwark is probably slightly better than Ling. Then again, maybe not. No. Because Ling can fill the LB gauge for the party, and that's a really big deal. Bulwark cannot do that, or at least not in a very good way. I think the main reason Ling saw so much more use than Bulwark is the killers. Ling's killers showed up a lot more often than Bulwark's did, from what I feel like. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and go that way. Next up is Kresnik, and he's going to go into the amazing tier. He was by far the best of that batch of unit designs. You know, they had 6 of them. I would say he is the best of the 6 unit design fan designs. His kit was, like, he was the morale king until Chow came along. He was just the guy who filled your morale gauge. And even after Chow, Kresnik, to this day, even today, you every now and then will see Kresnik on a Clash of Wills team. Not as much these days, because we've got way better morale sources than him these days, but he's still pretty good, and he does have that 3 turns of Boss Imbue for physical immunity, and that's still a really big deal depending on the fight. But no, Kresnik was way too good for way too long, and he's still every now and then popping out and showing up on a team. So he's going to have to go into the amazing tier. Absolutely high value unit that has stood the test of time. Lara Croft. I mean, I don't want the amazing tier to be overcrowded, but you can't deny. Once again, we had a big power creep. So Lara Croft was again a 90% defense breaker. This time, it was on a unit that dealt damage. Not only did Lara Croft deal damage, she was the highest damage dealer since Skye. Yeah, this is when Skye started to slowly fade out and Lara Croft just took over. Lara Croft took that mantle and ran with it. She was the #1 damage dealer in Clash of Wills for 4 to 5 months. Every unit that came out since then, it's like they're doing... She was the comparison point. Do they deal as much as Lara Croft? And the answer is no. Lara Croft just deals way more damage. She also saw use in Dark Visions, because 90% defense break. Now, her Dark Visions damage wasn't nearly as good as her Clash of Wills damage, but it was still usable, and she was the breaker for Dark Visions for quite a few months. Yeah, Lara Croft was meta-changing, and she was amazing. She didn't really do anything except for 90 defense break and some damage, but that's all you need sometimes, and she was amazing for months and months and months. Oliveira is gonna go... He's not good. Like, we're gonna go to mediocre. Even though his intrinsic was absolutely amazing, and it made him way better than he was, his original form before the intrinsic was honestly probably in the terrible tier. But with the intrinsic, it was okay. He was decent, but the issue was his gearing. Even with absolutely whale mode gearing, he is horrible to gear. He has some of the worst passives of like all these units. He cannot gear for worth a damn. His gearing is terrible. Terrible. He's got like no double hand. He's got like no passive stats. He's got no killers. He's got no LB damage, or, you know, low amounts. In any case, you need like 12 slots on this guy to max everything, and he's got 4. It's not enough. He can't gear for anything. And because of that, even though on paper, in theory, he should be good, the fact that you can't gear for anything makes him not worth it. Full Moon Carton. I think he's going to go in the good tier, just because he was the king of turn 1 OTK for like 5 months. And I know that when he came out, I always get flack for this. I said he wasn't that special. I still stand by the fact that he wasn't that special as a burst damage dealer on like a Dark Visions or a Clash of Wills party. What I didn't take into effect is he would let you just turn 1 OTK all the normal content. So, like, you know, EX stages, back when we used to get them, even a bunch of trials, Carton could turn 1 OTK all of that. And that was convenient. I myself used it in quite a few guides. Now, allowing you to kill a fight on turn 1 that you could have just as easily killed on turn 3 with doing some setup. Are we really going to say Carton's amazing because he can save you 2 turns on a fight? No. But he was good, though. He was good. And his Dark Absorb did come into play a few times in Clash of Wills. The party-wide Dark Absorb that you could do every single turn if you killed his LB. That was a big deal in quite a few fights. Maybe not quite a few, but at least 2. I know Threshin, that was a big part of one of the Threshin strategies. I think there was one more. The Plant, maybe? I don't remember. But there was one other fight where Dark Absorb was a really big deal, and Carton allowed you to do that, and it was great. But, you know, the big thing with Carton is the turn 1 convenience, and it was a convenience thing, not a meta thing. It was just convenience, allowing you to kill it on turn 1. Angela. So Angela is a little bit of a strange one. So, she, on release, would have gone into, like, the mediocre tier. Because on release, she wasn't that special. Global, in order to make her better, they changed her LB to a physical type scaling so that you could imbue her. And then they made her modifier crazy high because back in the day, magic variants didn't exist. And therefore, Angela was no good. What I guess the global developers didn't realize or didn't know that coming from JP, mages were going to eventually get variants. So because they artificially boosted her modifier so high to compensate for not having variants, when she eventually got variants, when the mage patch came to global, all of a sudden that really high modifier, which now had double hand variants, was doing astronomically more damage than anyone else in the game at the time. It was basically another Ibara situation. So she was the big carry in Dark Visions for months. Like, if you didn't have Angela, you weren't ranking high in Dark Visions. And I can attest to that because that included me. I did not have Angela. I passed on her because she wasn't that good at the time period. Because we didn't have variants. I think it was like the week after her banner closed, we got the variants patch on JP. And then like 4 months later, it came to global. And that's when Angela all of a sudden skyrocketed to the best unit in the game. Because unintended or unforeseen interaction. And for me, it was too late. And I didn't have her. So there was like 4 months of Dark Visions where I just basically couldn't do anything because I didn't have her. Everyone that had her was in the top ranks. And there was me in like the mid ranks without her. But yeah, she was good. And then Duran. Absolute terrible tier. Global also designed him from the ground up with, heavily influenced by his JP version. But in JP, he was a different unit. In any case, absolutely terrible. He was the worst one by far of that batch. And still to this day is complete and utter garbage. Reese, I'm going to put her in the same way. I do realize that for a very, very short time window, she had like a few uses on global, but she was power crept like right away, and she was not good either. Just not good, not good. Like the whole mana batch wasn't even that good until Angela got boosted artificially from the variance patch, and she became god tier. But yeah, the rest of these were not good. Then we've got Maeve. I'm going to stick Maeve in. This is a hard one. This is a hard one. Okay, so Maeve, for her Clash of Wills, was really good. Maeve has also seen use on 1 or 2 Clash of Wills since then. and she was okay on those. The issue I have with Maeve, and this is a personal thing, is mitigation. I cannot stand the fact that Maeve's mitigation is so bad. Like, we've got Rhonda doing 85 mitigation for physical units. We've got 7-star units like Beatrix doing 80 mitigation for herself and 75 for the party. And then you've got Maeve doing 50 for the party and 60 for herself. What? Why is Maeve's mitigation so dumpster tier? It's so bad. And on top of that, Maeve cannot even Brave Shift if you're using her Trust Mastery passive. And to this day, they have not fixed that. If you Brave Shift while using her Trust passive, on the turn you Brave Shift, she will autocast the opposite cover of what your form you were in, and it'll override it. So not only will it override your cover, it'll override it with that autocast cover with like 30 or 40% mitigation. It's so bad to the point where you can't even equip her Trust Mastery or STMR if you're going to be Brave Shifting with her. This unit is a train wreck, and the only reason I'm not putting her in the terrible tier is because she did have a brief window where she was good, mostly because of the racial mitigations. Like for Threshin, her own Clash of Wills, she had the Dragon and the Beast mitigation, so it perfectly lined up. Obviously, it's her Clash of Wills. Of course it lined up. But, yeah, Rhonda puts Maeve to shame. The 7-star Beatrix puts Maeve to shame. And it's just unfortunate. Tiana, how are we going to rank her? Man, I'm putting her in terrible. I don't even care. I'm putting her in terrible tier. Because Tiana, again, she had one Clash of Wills. One. Her own personal Clash of Wills where she was a good unit. The minute her Clash of Wills closed, Tiana became useless, in my opinion. Now, there's going to be people that say, oh, but I used her for 3 more months. Okay, sure, she was usable, but she was not the right pick. No way was she the right pick. There were so many better options over Tiana. So even though you could use her after her Clash of Wills, there was no reason to. There were so many better units to take after Tiana's Clash of Wills. She had no value, in my opinion. This is my tier list. So yes, I've made this argument before, and people were like, but I used Tiana all the way until April. Well, why didn't you pull a better unit? Because there were a lot of them available. A lot. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get off that soapbox. Chow. What was his name? Divine Beast Chow. In any case, the Tank Chow. Obviously, he's going to be going directly to the amazing tier. Because he broke the game. He literally had the global developers. They had to go and fundamentally change the basic core systems of Brave Exvius to handle this dog. Because his counter build, well, him and Riku, I guess they both contributed equally. But, yeah, his counter build would just be the morale auto fix. He would counter like 40 times in Clash of Wills, and the morale gauge would go from the starter point to the maximum, and he'd still be countering for another 20 times. It was insane, completely insane. He also had permanent uptime Omni cover, and he would just tank everything. And yeah, he was overpowered for a long time. And they kept doing things, trying to make Chow get power crept. Like they would give a boss Beast Killer. I think it was the spider boss maybe? But they gave a boss specifically Beast Killer just so you wouldn't tank it with Chow. And there were still clears that still tanked it with Chow anyway. They would give bosses like only 1 or 2 attacks per turn, so Chow didn't have much to counter. But when you're covering 2 attacks on a party, that's 6 times 2. That's 12 hits. Chow would still counter 12 times, even if the boss only attacked twice in a turn. He would still get 12 counters off, which was still a huge amount of morale. So eventually, and of course Riku was probably a bigger factor for this, but eventually the global developers finally put the nail in the coffin, and they changed counters as a whole, and you can no longer counter more than 5 times per turn. So I think Riku was the number one reason for that, but Chow was a very close number 2 for the reason they had to just finally kill counter builds entirely because of that. He was that broken for a long time. Chow was just the tank for like 7 months, almost a year. It was insane. Insane. Stormseeker Esther. I guess she's got to go to amazing too. I mean, Global made a lot of good units. They did. So Esther was an incredible damage dealer for her time. She was an incredible tank. Well, okay, let's not go too far. No, she wasn't an incredible tank. She was a fine tank, and she was a usable tank. I'm not going to say incredible, because her mitigations for the party were like basically non-existent almost, and her own mitigations weren't even that high. So no, she was not an incredible tank. She was a usable tank and an incredible damage dealer in the same unit. And she could, in some cases, do both at the same time. Then later on, she got upgraded, where she got the Sylvie synergy, and she came back as another damage dealer, or it came back as a damage dealer into relevance again. And yeah, she was just a good damage dealer. She was the go-to for all trials from her time period for 5-6 months. All the trials were like, take an Esther, take an Esther, take an Esther. And yeah, she was good. She had a very long lifespan. These days, not as good these days. Her damage is absolutely terrible these days, and her tanking was never good. It was usable, and the reason you would use Esther as your tank is not because she was a good tank. It was because she could tank and then go into the damage form. But if you wanted like a real tank, you would take, Runda or something. Anyway, yeah, she was good. She was really good for a long time. Roberta. I mean, we have to go to amazing tier. Roberta was also amazing. Her kit is one of those kits that I frequently call out as, remember when global units used to be good? And Roberta is one of my favorite examples, is her kit was awesome. She had multiple killers. She had some of the best tag chaining in the game. Her damage, at the time, her damage was amazing. Lots of utility. She had perfect dispel both sides. She had 5-stack Mirage. She could amp the party for 3 different elements. She could modifier buff the party. Like, she was just amazing. And even to this day, you still rarely, but you still see Roberta every now and then pop out and be like, remember me? I'm still good. Yeah, she was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Love Roberta. Love her. Love her. Frostblade Frievia. How am I going to rate this girl? Okay, she's not like worthless or anything, but yeah, I do feel she's definitely on the low end. I mean, she's almost okay to alright, but I'm going to have to put her in mediocre just because of her damage. Her damage has always been bad, and she doesn't really have a support kit that justifies that bad of a damage. Like Vanera, a 90 break is a big deal. That by itself justifies having nothing else in the kit. I think Frievia's best break is like 88. And yes, she does have the ice field, and that was nice. If you're doing an ice party, the field back in the day when fields were a little bit rare, it was good, it was fine. But just the fact that Frievia's damage has always been so terrible is a killer for me. Because first and foremost, she is a damage dealer. And even though she's got like mediocre breaks in her kit and a field that isn't even that good, like a 25% field, really, it's not even that good. Or is it 30? 25 or 30. In any case, it was also Ice Element, and Ice wasn't really the meta at any point ever. Never has been. I guess Ice is okay with Ayaka, but whatever. Anyway, I don't think Frievia is super great. She's going into the mediocre tier. Kaito, once again, talk about the gold standard for unit design. Kaito and Roberta are my absolute two favorite examples of remember when global units used to be good. It's always either Kaito or Roberta I use as my shining example of an amazing, amazing kit that stands the test of time. Kaito does almost everything. I love this unit so much. He's got all the breaks at 90% in Clash of Wills. All the breaks at 90%. He's got a completely, well, he introduced a completely unique mechanic of the buff manipulation. He can extend or reduce buffs, even undispellable buffs, which is awesome. I've said it so many times. I love when they introduce a unique mechanic with a unit. And Kaito did that. He's got multiple killers. He's got Mirage for the party, Perfect Dispels. He's got Fields. He's got Imbues for the party. He's got Absorb for the party. He can make the party absorb water. He's got Killers. I think I said that already. Racial mitigations. All the breaks at 90%. I think I'm repeating myself at this point. All the weapon imperils, all the elemental imperils, just god tier unit. The only thing he doesn't have is damage. Like, his damage is no good. He is a pure support unit, but oh man, does he support so good. And to this day, he is still on almost every Clash of Wills that is involving water. And even quite a few of them that don't involve water, you still see Kaito coming to the Clash of Wills. He's that good that, like, 2 years later, he is still on, like, every other rank 1 Clash of Wills party. This unit is, again, one of the longest surviving, highly valuable units we have ever had, and that is Kaito. Absolutely perfection in a unit. Anyway, then we have Wilk. Talk about terrible. I hate Wilk. And he's a sore point for me. Okay, so we're going to have to take him out of terrible and put him in mediocre just because of the 90 break. And you might be asking me, well, wait a minute. We've got Vanera, who does absolutely nothing except the 90 break, and then you've got Wilk, who is also a 90 break, plus a few other things. No, not even close. You know why? Vanera can do that 90 break on turn 1 with no setup. Not shitty Wilk. Oh no. Wilk's got to go through this whole jump over an unlock system. It's so stupid. I hate Wilk. I hate Wilk so much. He's got this very awkward unlock system, and then he's got to stack up this stupid LB with like 3 different stacks. He's got to keep rotating between base form and shift form. He's got to do all this dumb stuff just for a 90 break. And then his damage is garbage. It's so bad. Like, even when he came out, it was okay for like half a Clash of Wills, and then immediately his damage is power crept severely by Chizuru. And he's a premium unit. This is the sore point for me. Wilk is a premium unit. Ygni is also equally terrible. Napi is equally terrible. I don't really hate them as much because they're not premium. Wilk is a premium unit, and he is supposed to get better support by the developers. But this unit is so absolutely garbage tier and premium, and for 2 years, the global developers have done nothing to fix this. He has gotten no crowns, no intrinsics, no free upgrades, nothing. He is just sitting here at the bottom of the toilet doing nothing but a 90 break after you jump through a bunch of hoops to unlock it. Talk about a horribly designed unit. And the only reason I am not putting him in the terrible tier is because he did come to a few Clash of Wills. I'm sorry, a few Dark Visions, not Clash of Wills. No. Wilk came to one Clash of Wills, his own Clash of Wills, and then he was crept immediately. immediately. He's so bad for a premium. And he is the anniversary premium. He should be getting so much more support by the developers. And he gets nothing. And it frustrates me to no end. Anyway, forget Wilk. Then we've got Paladin Sylvie. So she's obviously in the terrible tier, right? Paladin Sylvie, no one uses her. Okay, let's be serious. Amazing tier. Yeah, Paladin Sylvie. I'm not going to spend a ton of time going over her because she's that famous. Everyone knows Paladin Sylvie. She's got it all in her kit. She's amazing. Not seeing as much use these days just because Melissa exists. We're going to get to her in a minute. But, I mean, even today, even with Melissa existing, Paladin Sylvie, you still bring her out every now and then, and she's still really good. She does all the support stuff, all the defensive support stuff. Whereas Kaito handles all like the offensive support, Sylvie handles all the defensive support. And some offensive support too. Like she's got 400 stat buffs, LB modifier buff, LB buff. You know, she's got killers. She's got offensive support too. But I would say Sylvie leans more towards the defensive side. But even so, great unit. Great unit. Samurai Chizuru. I feel like this amazing tier is getting too big, but we're going to put her in the good tier. And the single main reason I'm only putting her in the good tier is because of trance shift. She's a trance shift. And that trance shift, absolutely, with no doubt, the fact that she is trance shift has caused me to pass her over on quite a few Clash of Wills. Now, she's amazing. She's amazing. Don't get me wrong. 4 killers, great damage, tag chaining, some 400% stat buffs, 5-stack Mirage, can cure imbues on demand, 100% AoE amplify. Is it AoE? Actually, I think hers is a single target. I think it's hers is self only. Yeah, so forget that. In any case, she's a really good unit. But because she's a trance shift, that has really interfered with more than one of my plans in Clash of Wills. Quite a few times, I will put her on a Clash of Wills party and be like, she'd be really good here. She got the right killer, she got the right support kit. And then I'll start doing a turn chart, and it'll be like, oh, if she burst on turn 4, and then I need to cure imperils on like turn 3, and then I need to like burst again on turn 8, she'll be stuck in the base form. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. That trance shift of hers can really ruin your day, depending on the fight. It depends on the fight. Some fights, it's fine. It lines up perfectly. It is no problem at all. But there have absolutely been more than one fight where I have wanted to use her, but did not use her because she's a trance shift with an awkward duration, and I did not like that. So, for me, even though Chizuru is great, she's only going to go into the good tier. Beach Blaster Olive. How do we rank this girl? Like, she's definitely good. I'm wondering, is she going to be great? Is she going to be great? I think we're going to put her into good tier. It's, again, this is... Honestly, it's mostly because I'm trying to not just bloat the amazing tier. The amazing tier is getting way too thick. Yeah, the good tier is still good. Like, Olive is great. Olive is great. She was our introduction to global SLB units. Her rotation perfectly lines up at EX3. Yeah, and she was great for lots of trials. I think she was one of the MVPs for the Ashura trial, which was pretty hard when it came to global. Great in Clash of Wills. She's just a great damage dealer. 90% Spirit Break, useful in Dark Visions quite a few times. You've seen her in lots of Dark Visions on rank 1 parties. Good unit. The only reason I'm not putting her in an amazing tier is like when you compare Olive to like Kaito, it's not quite the same quality. And again, also, like I said, part of this is based on the time of release. Like Lara Croft was the same thing, a 90 break and high damage. But this is back when that was a lot more rare. You know, at this time period, you know, 90 break wasn't as rare anymore. You know, Kaito's already doing it in Clash of Wills. We've got Louise, we've got Vanera, we've got other units like Hawkeye, Crown Block. So, like, 90 breaks wasn't as big a deal when Olive came out. It was still really good, and she was still by far the #1 Spirit Breaker, because her damage is really good. But, you know, I feel like she's good tier. All right. Tsukiko. Man, this is hard. This is hard. Because we were like, because that year for Global was really good. And I want to put Tsukiko in, like, the amazing tier. think I'm going to, honestly. So, the main reason I'm ranking her so highly is not for her damage. Her damage, completely honest, is not that great. Like, it was fine when she came out. It got crept relatively quickly. Even when she came out, it still wasn't that great. But no, Tsukiko, the reason I like her is because she feels so much morale, and she can cure imperils on demand, while also doing quite a few different imperil fields. And those are a pretty big deal in Clash of Wills. Fire, light, and earth. And those elements, you know, relatively often come back, especially fire. Fire is a very popular element in Clash of Wills. And we don't have any good fire, well, at the time, we didn't have any good fire imperil fields. So I'm going to put Tsukiko really high because mostly the combination of very, very good morale battery with good imperil fields. Her damage was okay. It was never great, and it's falling pretty far behind these days, but it's still some damage, and it can contribute while, you know, filling lots and lots of morale, curing imperils on demand, and those fields. Those fields are very, very good. 3 fields on 1 unit, love it. Lilith. How do we rank Lilith? So, I'm going to stick her into alright tier. She's like borderline mediocre, but I'm going to put her in the alright tier because even though she's not that good of a tank, let's be honest here, her mitigations are terrible. She's very awkward to maintain physical mitigation. If you can fill the mitigation problem externally, for example, let's say you've got Melissa on the party to handle mitigations for you. Melissa's got very easy 80% general and all that. Let's say you've got that handled. Then Lilith can be a pretty nice damage dealer while still tanking. Her damage is decent, and she was actually a very good unit for quite a few Clash of Wills. Also, the healing. Some of these Clash of Wills that give you enormous healing downs and gravity attacks, then all of a sudden your party's at like 5% health, and you got like a 95% healing reduction. Lilith doesn't care. Does not care. All that healing down, Lilith can still top your party off easily. She heals for so much that she completely ignores healing down. And that has been a factor in more than one Clash of Wills. I've used her quite a few times. And she's good. She's good. That being said, as far as pure tanking, like I said, you need to get mitigations externally because she's garbage. As far as her damage, it's not super good, really. It's not good. But, you know, she's alright. She's alright. Right in the middle of the pack. 2B. I think she's going to have to go to the amazing tier. I feel bad putting so many units in amazing. It feels like it's really bloated, but 2B's amazing. She's amazing. So she's a tag chainer. Her damage is absolutely wonderful for the time. And of course, you know, all damage dealers, their damage fades over time. 2B's damage has been fading over time. It's still usable, and you still see her on a class that's weak to light element. You'll see her pop out quite often. She's still good even today. But tag chainer, really good damage, sort of rigid rotation a little bit, but it's not too bad. 4-stack Mirage for the party on a short cooldown. Some killers for the party, AoE, human and machine. It's not the biggest deal because those are kind of common, but still. Well-designed unit. Really like 2B. Happy I pulled for her. Still seeing use to this day. And then her sister A2. I know it's not really her sister. Or is it? I don't even know. I didn't play Nier. But we can't go to terrible, because like she's not terrible. But she's pretty close. A2 has a terrible rotation. Her LB is the most garbage frames ever. She can only deal damage once per 4 turns on the cooldown. You know, Melissa can speed it up, but naturally, You can only DPS once per 4 turns. On those other turns, you're not doing anything. Her damage is useless. Her normal LB, like I said, is... Or both her LB and her SLB are just no good. Yeah. Like, I don't understand how you got 2B and A2 on the same banner, because one is not like the other. Oh, boy. Anyway. Ayaka. We're going to stick her in alright tier. And again, that one might be a controversial take, because, yes, I realize she's a good ice amplifier, but I feel like her kit is just lacking. It's really just all about that one-time use ice amplify, and after that, no. It's not good. She's also awkward because you got to have the ×4 caster, and most people don't ×4 cast. And yes, you can give the card to a support unit and chain that way, but I shouldn't have to go through these extra headaches to make a unit work. Even if I can make it work, I don't want to go through the extra headache. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they wanted to make her a ×4 or ×5 caster, give her tag chaining, like 2B. Like, you don't need to be a pain in the ass to chain with. It's just annoying. And yeah, other than the ice amplify, and she got a, now she has a field. She didn't have the field at release, but now she's got a field. It makes her better, but even so, I feel like she's not super great. Her damage is definitely falling way behind these days. Lunar Festival Cleome. Should we make a new tier called the Cleome tier? No. Okay, so yes, it's a long-running joke. I don't like this unit. I've gone over many reasons why. I'm going to stick her in the alright tier because in spite of my bias for not liking her for all the reasons I've gone over in many videos, we're not going to rehash it again. The short summary is she's awkward. Her stuff is one-time use for absolutely no good reason. It's all on a delayed rotation. She's got a goofy setup rotation, but she does have a few nice things going for her. She's got the killer. She's got the support kit like Bar for Raja and all that. So we're putting her in the alright tier. She's alright. Even though I don't like her, she's alright. Abigail. Again, there's no surprise here. Best tank in the game, bar none. By far, the best tank by miles and miles and miles. Not only is her mitigation absolutely flawless, same as Runda. Runda has it too, but 85 mitigation is actually better than Runda because hers also has racial mitigation. I forget the race, like 4 or 5 races. I forget the ones, but she's got racial mitigation. On top of that, she has got an amazing support kit. Perfect Dispel, Imbues, all the mitigations, Mirage for the party. She's got 87 breaks on demand, 30 weapon in peril for every weapon in the game. She's got just everything. Bar for Rage to fill LB gauge. Also, her passive stats are incredible. She can gear for full defense, full spirit, full HP. And she's got enormously high stats. Full evasion at the same time. She's naturally immune to stop and charm. She automatically casts barrier for the whole party every single turn. She automatically casts breaks every single turn. Like, Abigail is the cream of the crop in terms of tanking. We will probably, until the day the server shuts down, we will probably never see a tank as good as Abigail. I would bet you. You know, we'll see. We'll see. We're supposed to be getting Wilhelm someday. Maybe he's as good. Maybe he's better. Who knows? But Abigail, perfect. Melissa, again, with this crowded-ass amazing tier. Melissa's amazing. She's basically just a side grade to Sylvie, but arguably slightly better. Because she's got, all the kit. I don't know. It's hard to talk about Melissa without just going down a checklist of all the reasons she's amazing. She's amazing. She's got all the mitigations are really high. The time magic is awesome. The killers, the 4 turns of Dark Imbue for the boss and Clash of Wills. 1 turn out of Clash of Wills. Double cast of the 100% amplify for the party. Just great unit. Oh, and morale. She fills the morale gauge more than anyone in the game. Yeah, Melissa, one of the best units in the entire game. Love Melissa. Blade of Vengeance Ibara. So this one's probably going to be a controversial take, but I'm going to put her in good tier. I don't know. I'm thinking if she deserves to go into the amazing tier. She's really good. Like, Ibara's really good. Don't get me wrong. She's really, really good. I don't know. This is hard. This is hard. I'm debating amazing tier for Ibara. Because really, all she does is damage and Mirage for the party. That's kind of it. Some killers, human and demon killer for the party. Very common killers. That's not really that big a deal. They're too common. She can do the Bard Darkture thing. I just feel like 2B. Yeah, I'm trying to compare her to other modern damage dealers. I think 2B is just a little bit better. Even though Ibara does more damage, I feel like 2B is, or even does she? I don't even know. I just feel like 2B is slightly better because of the tag chaining. Ibara, I gotta be honest, I really don't like that she's a one-hit capper, because that has definitely been an irritation. Sometimes when I'm trying to build like a big chain and she can't contribute to it, at least not with her good LB. You can do the base form LB for less damage, but that's less damage. I don't want to do that. Also, another kind of irritating thing is her rotation. Well, I can't really fault her for that. No. I don't know. So we're going to leave Ibara in good tier. She's real close to amazing, but I just feel like she's not quite there for me. Not quite. I don't know. I find myself using 2B more than Ibara. It seems like. Anyway, Dwayne. Dwayne's going to go into alright tier. Like, he's fine. He's okay. He's got the awkward rotation. Very, very hard locked into a 3-round repeating rotation. His damage is good. Not super amazing. It's pretty good, honestly. He's got the arcane supplementation. He's a tag chainer, which is awesome. But really, sort of basic unit. Other than arcane supplementation, not much of a support kit. And we're going to put Nora right there in the same thing. Nora is slightly better, probably, because Nora does have fields. Nora's got AoE killers. Nora's got the modifier buff. You know, honestly, I think I just talked myself into it. Nora's got to go into the good tier. Because, yeah, Nora is just Dwayne without the tag chaining, but plus modifier buff, fields, and AoE killers. And AoE imbue. Dwayne can't even AoE imbue. Like, really, Dwayne? Come on. Yeah, Nora's got a way better support kit than Dwayne. Other than that, they're pretty much the same unit. Yeah. Eternal Radiance Elena. I'm going to put her in the good tier. I'm not going to put her in the amazing tier. And that might be, again, another controversial take, because I recognize that her leader skill was great for months and months, and even today, it's still, well, I guess Aang kind of power crept it, but it's still a usable leader skill. But my issue with Elena is her tanking. Her tanking, she has just way worse mitigation than Abigail. Now, you might be saying, wait a minute, for the last, 3 Clash of Wills, I've used Elena as a tank and she's been fine. Yes, and that is almost exclusively because the last few Clash of Wills have perfectly lined up for her racial mitigations. Elena does have very high racial mitigation for demon, human, and I think one more. Undead, maybe? I don't know. But yes, when you're facing one of those specific races, Elena's racial mitigation will overcome the fact that her regular mitigation is very low. She's only got 75 mitigation compared to Abigail's 85. And for a really brief comparison, at 85 mitigation, you're taking 15 damage. At 75 mitigation, you're taking 25 damage. 15 versus 25 is something like, I don't know, a 40% additional damage. So Elena is taking 40% more damage than Abigail at a 2-second math comparison. It's actually worse than that, because then you factor in magical mitigation on top of that. Then Abigail's got another 85 versus 25, so it's 40 times 40. In any case, Elena is taking massively more damage than Abigail. Massively more damage than Abigail. If you don't factor in the racial mitigation. When you factor in human or demon, then that really jumps Elena way high up, because racial mitigation can equalize that. But anyway, that's why for me you're only going into good tier. Richt is going into amazing tier. And it's not bias. It really isn't. It's not bias. It's because I think Richt is amazing. He's a very, very good damage dealer, but he's got no rotation, and no rotation is the best kind. That means you can just pop off every single turn with Richt, and I love that. I love any kind of unit that can pop off every single turn with no setup. Anytime you give a unit a modifier buff in their kit, I all of a sudden do not like that. Because that means you cannot go off every single turn at full power. Richt can. On top of that, Richt has some amazing support kit. He's got the auto-cast Perfect Dispel for a few turns in a row. He's got the breaking kit, the full break. He's got the Kaito ability of reducing durations. He's got 250 self-only, but 250 killers. He's got 2 different casts of Big Holy Amplify. Like, Richt is awesome. Richt is absolutely amazing. Now, his damage is falling behind these days. That's purely as a damage thing, but like, if, it's never going to happen. But if Gumi ever does, like, crowns or enhancements, all Richt needs is meta-level damage to all of a sudden be amazing again. Because his kit is still god tier. It's just that his damage is falling behind because he's a damage dealer, and that happens. Yeah, but if you give him crowns, all of a sudden, he's one of the best units in the game again. Malphasy. Okay, so Malphasy, I'm a little bit mixed on. I have lost respect for Malphasy, and I'm only going to put her into alright tier. Like, I would have put her into the good tier, but same thing as Chizuru is that trance shift, man. That trance shift. Trance shifts are just garbage. Like, I don't like trance. I'd almost say I'd rather an SLB over a trance shift. Because, I don't know, maybe not, but still. Yeah, and the fact that Malphasy's killers in the field, all of that is locked into the temporarily available shift form, don't like it. I don't like it. Yeah. So that trance shift really kills it for me. Now, other than that, you might be saying, hey, Chizuru, exact same thing. 3 turns and 2 turns. The difference is Chizuru came out a year earlier, and it wasn't as big a deal. As unit design moves forward and we get more modern units, I have higher standards. So while Chizuru is going to be in the good tier, because trance shifting was still a problem back then, I would hope that these days we don't have those handicapped trance shifts. And yet Malphasy is one of those handicapped trance shifts, and I don't like it. Don't like it. But she's going to be alright tier. Arcane Scholar Kier goes right into the dumpster. Talk about a garbage unit. And I can't wait for people to jump on me in the comments. Oh, he's not that bad. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. There has been no point ever has Kier seen use. No one has used him. And if you have, you just don't have any units then. Because there's no reason to use Kier anywhere ever. He is bad. His damage is garbage. The only thing he has going for him is a fire field. Or an ice and a fire field. Like, that is it. He is garbage damage and a fire and peril field. Like, just put Vanille on your party. Give me a break. No. We're not using Kier anywhere ever. The unit is bad. So bad. Alright, Ella Spirus. How do we rank her? Do we rank her original form? Original form would be like mediocre. Like, almost terrible at mediocre. But then she got upgraded to be like... I almost want to say amazing, but we're gonna go into good tier. I'm thinking. Hold on. Maybe amazing. I don't know. Maybe amazing. The problem is her damage. Her damage is garbage. Very, very bad damage. She's a good breaker. 90 breaker even in dark visions. That's a really big deal. She's got some utility too. Like, well, the fields. I guess she doesn't have that much utility. She's got the fields, the imperils, the weapon imperils. I mean, that's all good. But I mean, as far as like party buffs and stuff, not really, huh? No, not really. She's basically just a breaker, weapon imperils, and fields, which is good. But does it qualify for amazing? I don't think so. I don't know. It's close. It's another one of those really close ones. But no. I'm going to put her into the good tier. And again, like I said, why is Laura up here? Basically because of a 90 break. Because Laura came out a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago. 90 break was a really big deal once upon a time. 90 break these days, it's still good, but it's not as big a deal. It's much more common. But I don't know. She's still really good. Oh, it's tempting. But I'm going to leave her in good tier. Mostly because she's primarily dark element. It's hard. It's really hard. I don't know. We're going to leave her there. Okay, Addison Rae. We're going to put her in, no, we're going to put her in alright. She's alright. She's alright. So, I feel like Addison Rae had a little bit of hype that was maybe undeserved. From myself even, because people were kind of like excited about the light party with Noctis, and then Addison Rae was going to be a good damage dealer on the light party. It ended up not really being a thing, partially because Global skipped and moved around some dark visions. So the dark visions that you would have used Addison Rae during that narrow window either got delayed or skipped entirely. And all of a sudden, by the time, we're using things like Noctis and all that, now we've got Neo Plus Waters and things like that. So, I don't know. And then even in Clash of Wills, I have her. I find myself not using her. She does have the AoE 100 Holy Amplify, which is nice. The issue is there's so many good holy damage dealers in Clash of Wills that all have their own 150 Amplify. Like, the AoE light amp is probably the least impactful of all the elements. Because there's so many light units in Clash of Wills. You've got Murray, you've got 2B, you've got Richt, you've got A2. Is there any more? You've got Tyvis with the Meteor build. And all these units have 150 light amplify. So you don't really need Addison's AoE amp. Like, that's probably the least important element to have an AoE amp for. So yeah, for me, she's just alright. Then we get Ibara, and it's really not bias here. I think she's absolutely amazing. She's a really high damage dealer, a flexible damage dealer. She's, got a true Brave Shift, not Trance, true Brave Shift. And she's got that base form. That base form is awesome. So much support in that base form. She's got debuff removal, barrier, full immunity buffs, immunity to all the statuses, stop, etc. She's got 5-stack Mirage. She can reduce her own cooldown. She can heal. She can fill the morale gauge by a good amount. She can perfect dispel the boss. She can give the boss healing down permanently. No, not permanently. No. It's a permanently usable, not permanent uptime, but it's a cooldown. You can keep using it over and over and over. But yeah, Ibara is wonderful. Wonderful unit. Great damage, great support kit. And I value that very, very highly. Same thing as Richt. Great support kit on a damage dealer is awesome. Things like Chizuru, same thing, but that trance shift kills it on Chizuru. True shift, trance shift. That's why you see right here. Same thing over here, true shift. If 2B was a trance shift, she'd be down here, maybe even down here. But true shift, perfect. Guardian Chow. He's going to go into good tier. He's good. He's got some support. He's got, the Bar Warderja. He's got the field. He's got the killers. He's got good damage, the AoE Water Imbue, the Arcane Supplementation. I'm almost considering putting him in the amazing tier, but he is hard locked to water. Now, yes, he does have light and dark chaining skills, and the damage is like okay, kind of, but not really. It's really not. Like, no, he's a pure water unit, one element, and the fact that he's only one element, realistically, is a big negative for me. So for that reason, he's going down to the good tier. But if he was elementally flexible, I'd put him in the amazing tier. But he's not. On the other hand, Hayo, no surprise here, amazing tier. Just like Richt, he's got no setup. He's just damage pops off every single turn. Maximum damage right out the gate. He's a tag chainer, and his damage is really high. He's a premium unit, so therefore he's got all the Omni Killers. He's got the good fields. He's got he can imbue the boss and give absorption to himself on it, but he can imbue the boss, so he can give the whole team a turn of immunity. He's got breaks. You're probably not going to use them, but he's got breaks. 89 breaks in Clash of Will, but 87 break, I think, outside, or 88. I think 87. In any case, really wonderful unit. And then Veritas of the Frost, I'm only going to put him into good tier. Basically, you want to know the reason here? Modifier buffs. I hate modifier buffs. I hate them. I hate them so much. And then, yeah, he is, hamstrung by not only modifier buffs, but super limit burst. So not only for doing the good damage, you have to wait on the SLB, you've got to also maintain these idiotic modifier buffs. And it's just the headache that's irritating. But his damage is good, and he's got good breaks. But it's not enough for me to give him amazing tier. Beryl is going to go into the alright tier. Like, honestly, I don't feel like Beryl is that special. Maybe I'm just like being negative on the dude. I don't know. But I don't feel like he's that special. He's just like damage in a field. The end. He's got some support. I don't know. He's got some support stuff. I'm a little mixed on Beryl. I'm a little mixed. I don't know. I'm not sure what to say. Like, he's not bad. I get that he's not bad, but I feel like even though I have him, I just don't feel like I really ever put him on a party. Really? He's just not doing it for me. I don't know. He's weird. Weird little Tomberry. Whatever. Mirai. I'm going to stick her in the same thing. She's just alright. I don't know. She's a field, but it's only a 50 field. I feel like being a 50 field this close to the 70 meta she should have been 70. Especially considering at the current time they've skipped Nelica and we have no 70 light field. Like, she could have been the 70 light field. If so, she would have been bumped up a lot. But she's like just a field and damage. It's mostly it. I think she has arcane supplementation too, which is nice. It's nice, but I don't know. I could be unnecessarily harsh on Mirai, but let's stick her in good tier. It's fine. She's got arcane supplementation. You know what? Beryl too. We'll stick him in good tier. He's fine. Yeah. Let's go ahead and keep them in order of release, though. So put him over here. I don't know. They just feel boring to me. I don't know. It's hard to describe. They feel boring to me. They're just a field and damage and some minor support. I can't really explain why. They feel boring to me. All right. Then Aang. Now, see, again, here we go. Aang is amazing because Aang has a 70 field. They recognized we're in the 70 meta, and they gave us a 70 field. He's got a good leader skill. He's got good personal damage. He's got good support for the party. He's got perfect dispel, perfect cleanse on the party. He's got 400 stat buff, 300 LB buff for the party. These are all wonderful, wonderful things. He's got killers for the party. He's got, I think he has Amplify for the party in Clash of Wills. I don't remember. I think he does, actually. I think he does have 100 Amplify for the party. No, that's Chow. I don't know. In any case, Aang is really good. I like Aang. He's a well-designed unit. Very, very nice. And then we have Xyrus. Now, I realize this is the wrong sprite for Xyrus. The wiki didn't have the Neovision sprite available yet, so I'm using the old sprite. But Xyrus. How do we rank Xyrus? It's not going to be high. I'm unhappy with how Xyrus turned out. I think Xyrus is going to go into, like, the mediocre tier. I think so. I'm very disappointed in Xyrus. He was the introduction of Neo Plus on Global, and he really dropped the ball, dude. He really did. He's just not what we wanted to see. All of his good abilities are locked into Clash of Wills, and the global developers follow the same terrible pitfall as JP, where they didn't give him a leader skill, they didn't give him a weapon in peril, a good one, and they didn't give him a good Amplify. Yeah, he's got a bad Amplify in Dark Vision, and then only 100 in Clash of Wills. Like, come on, really? Like, just because JP was being stupid, there's no reason Global had to be stupid too. But they did. They decided to make Xyrus terrible. So, or mediocre, not terrible, mediocre. Yeah, I'm not impressed with Xyrus. Now, Xyrus is, the proper sprite is top tier amazing. I love Xyrus' sprite. But good sprite, not enough for me to chase a unit. We need a kit. We need a real kit. Not the garbage of early Neo Pluses. And Xyrus followed right along the garbage Neo Plus era. Very sad. Very, very sad. Anyway, that is my lifetime tier list for global Neovisions up to the current point in time. In about 2 hours, we'll be getting a stream for the next global unit, and we'll see how it goes. Well, at the time of recording, I'm probably not going to upload this until tomorrow because we're getting a stream very, very soon. I don't want to distract from that. So by the time you watch this, the stream's already over. Anyway, see you then.